tune with knowing how to be submitting offers. And really the next thing we want to be going into is how do we make listing your home here in California the smoothest move as possible, and knowing that, you know, moving is always stressful and there's always hiccups that come along, but how do we market and list a home here?
So yeah, we absolutely are excited about what we're able to do for you here when listing your home, because I think it comes with a more comprehensive approach. There's agents out there, there are agents out there, and there's companies out there that really don't pay much mind to how your home is presented to the open market. Well, that's something here that we feel like we not only have raised our bar, is that we feel like we're ahead of the curve a little bit. And by that, I say that we not just use professional photography, we don't just hire the drone photographers, we don't just do the Matterport, but even a step further is that we look into what's called something like the concierge service. We use that term because the industry has kind of accepted this, but what does that mean exactly? So what it means is that we take your home and we look at a lot of those small things that need to be done, whether it's paint trim, wood chips, light landscaping. We've gotten even into some heavy stuff where we're coordinating with roofing contractors or painting contractors, flooring contractors. So we pull together our resources in order to help manage the contractors to get over to your property to handle that type of setup, as well as staging for the home. So all of these things kind of encompassed in the concierge service. Now, sometimes these services can be a bit of a burden on the homeowner to take on immediately up front. And so there is certain instances where if the homeowner and the job that is needing to be done is within a reasonable price range, we're able to advance payment for those services with obviously the securing of a listing agreement. But we could advance payment for those services, have everything done as part of your listing agreement, and then when we get reimbursed for what had to be done to your property, it all comes out at the close of escrow. So we like to believe that it lends itself best. And in fact, I have a short story about one that we just ran into recently. In fact, it kind of encompasses everything that I just talked about. The previous listing agent was unsuccessful, surprisingly unsuccessful in this market, because everybody thinks, oh, you just put a sign up and that's all you do, right? Well, this agent was not only was unsuccessful in it, but he did the clear example of what you don't do to sell a house. So he took pictures with his iPhone. He included the cat in the photos, also some messy stuff around the house. The other thing he did is that he did random open houses whenever he felt like it. Then he brought a client into the home that says, oh, I've got a deal for you. And he had brought that in, was unsuccessful, brought another client in that he somehow found without any marketing of the property. They were unsuccessful at $720,000 for this property in Glendora. When myself and Wendy had the opportunity to get in there, we brought in somebody to help with the landscape. We cleared out some trees and bushes, and we went in, did some staging with our stager. We did the professional photography, the Matterport. Long and the short of it, we sold the house that first weekend. We secured it for $755,000, $35,000 above what the other gentleman could not accomplish. So it all does matter, and anything that we're doing, it does lend itself to the end result. So marketing of your home, big deal, as well as. And
really it's, marketing the property, as we mentioned, the professional photos, drone video, 3D virtual tours, all of that to get to a point where there's offers, multiple offers, and then your agent is negotiating on your behalf. And what we were talking about before with contingencies and making sure that those are things that have already been discussed and agreed upon.
Right.
The buyer, this is not a mystery. It's not, the buyer's offer gets accepted and then we're saying, hey, yeah, we want to make sure that the seller can find their replacement property. These are negotiations that are happening on your behalf to make sure that your very unique scenario, which might be a contingent sale with a rent back for 30 days, or, certain things that you do want to move with you out of state, making sure that those negotiations are fit to your needs. So you're not only maximizing the amount of money that you make for your house, but you're also feeling like you're getting maybe some of those intangibles that aren't just, money. It might be time. It might be certain things that you want to see in the sale. And that's the negotiation that's happening.
Absolutely. The negotiation that happens is critical. But one thing to mention before is that when we go through all that effort to get all the professional marketing done for your property, we don't just limit it to the MLS. We make sure that the social media feeds, Facebook and Instagram, are getting special attention. We have ads that we run that are specific to the geographic area we believe those buyers would be coming from, and that's done for you. So as far as listing your home, professional photography, professional video, Matterport, concierge services, staging, and the social media marketing. The negotiations, though, the intangible, having knowledge of the contract, much of what we're talking about here, but it gets even more so when you're talking about requests for repairs, you're talking about timeframes, you're talking about contingent, things that are included with the sale, not included with the sale. It's a 16-page residential purchase agreement. Yes. So you want to make sure that you understand the person that you have representing you has a full understanding of what is entailed with all of that, so that you're not agreeing to something that you had no idea about.
Yeah. So and as a quick, quick intermission, we do have 15 minutes left on this call. So thank you everyone that's kind of jumped in randomly on the Facebook Live or on the Zoom. The next thing we're going to be talking about is something that could be causing, considerable stress, and that's money. It's the tax ramifications. It's, am I going to have this huge tax bill when I move out of state? Is there, I've seen some articles online about there being penalties for moving out of California, and kind of what's going on with tax ramifications.
Yeah, so fortunately the penalty for leaving California, it died at the House. It did not get, or it died at the Assembly. It wasn't able to get into the governor's office, so there was not any legislation that passed in terms of taxing you when you leave California. But, kind of part of the reason maybe some of you are looking to leave California, because we are a heavily taxed state. It's very expensive to live here. But the primary thing to be aware of is your capital gains exemption. Now, you do have a capital gains exemption, and that would be if you're an individual that has had your home as a primary residence 2 of 5 years, you have a $250,000 capital gain exemption. Excuse me. If you are married, you have a $500,000 capital gain exemption that you can realize. And again, you have to have lived in the home 2 out of the 5 years. Excuse me.
And again, we are not accountants, we're not CPAs, so please consult a tax professional, and they're going to be able to give you a better idea of what that tax burden might be. But something that, again, in terms of the conversation of when do I start talking to an agent about this process? Today. If you're planning to sell your house, this would really be a great time to start the conversation and then figure out, how much could I sell my house for? Because we can help prepare what's called a seller net sheet, which estimates the proceeds from your sale.
Yes.
That's something that you could bring to your accountant and say, hey, if we made this much money when we sell our house, what are we looking at? But again, in light of being prepared and not getting blindsided by something, that's definitely something to have a conversation with your tax professional. And the IRS, I'm going to go back and was on the slide. The IRS website does have information about capital gains exemptions. So does the California Franchise Tax Board. And those are both, we'll give a lot of information about that.
But here's a big thing, and this is when we talked about moving out of state and then not buying, maybe renting for a while. Is there a time frame? What am I supposed to do with this extra money, this tax-free event that's occurred? Is there a qualifying event that happens later that maybe eliminates that provision, and then I'm forced to be taxed on it at some point? And the answer is no. You can sell your home that you've lived in 2 out of the last 5 years, take that money, and never reinvest it. And it's yours to keep, tax-free. It's actually one of the few good things about our tax code that is offered to you. But most people, and our recommendation is you do reinvest that into real estate, and your primary residence being one of them.
So kind of the next thing would be, okay, so what if I, I've gone through this whole process about considering selling my house in state, and I realized, well, the problem that I was trying to solve was maybe a cost of living, and I really don't just need to sell my house, I just need to have a lower monthly payment or save some money. And what are some options for moving in state?
Yeah, so moving in state, one of the challenges, as Chess is alluding to, with people that are either retiring or 55 and older is maybe a fixed income. And so the consideration of buying another property, even if it's a lot less than what you sold your property for, comes with the burden of property tax, because property tax is based upon the assessed value of the property at the time that it was purchased. Well, under Prop 19, which was released a couple years back, and if you're 55 or older, severely disabled, or a victim of wildfire disaster or a disaster, natural disaster rather, you're able to take your property tax basis with you anywhere in the state of California. And it's not, it's without regard to the price of the home. You could buy a more expensive home, you could buy a less expensive home, and it could be anywhere in the state, and you could do it more than one time. So the important thing to remember here, though, is that it differs from what Prop 60 offered you, which was limited to within the same county, or what Proposition 90 had offered you before, and it was limited to a handful of counties that you could do that within. As well, you had to buy for less than what you sold for, which may be really impossible depending on the area that you're going to. You might be going from, although making a large gain, you might be going to a higher priced area. And again, from a tax perspective, and if you're on a fixed income, having to get taxed that much more on your new property sometimes is a discouragement. So Prop 19 is a great solution for those looking to move within the state and still keep those expenses in check.
Yeah, so that would be transferring your tax base. Another couple options are sometimes it means that you sell here and you rent for maybe a period of time, maybe for, indefinitely. And just a quick note that even if you're on this call and you don't own property in California,
Right.
if you are considering a move out of state, we can still provide you with those
Absolutely.
same names, contact informations of agents out of state. We've actually helped a lot of people who are renting here move out of state, connect with them with an agent. And that's something that we would love to be a resource in.
Yeah, so hopefully all of the information here as we've gone through it, your motivation, what's driving you to get there, the considerations as far as like, well, what happens first? Do I sell first? Do I buy first? You recognize that we've laid out some solutions there. I lost the other slide. So the other things we talked to you about, sorry.
I'm working on the Zoom slideshow right now.
In any case, all the information we provided. One thing to mention though about that proposition that did fail, not all propositions that are bad fail. Sometimes they pass. And so with that, I'd like to bring your attention to AB 1771, which you should be talking to your legislator about, sending a letter, doing some sort of communication to them, even a tweet using their handle, whoever your local representative is, telling them you think that this bill, AB 1771, is a bad bill. Because what this bill is looking to do, it proposes an unprecedented tax on the sale of a home in the first 7 years after purchase. If a home was sold within the first 3 years, that tax would impose a punitive 25% tax. AB 1771 proposes to punish homeowners for simply deciding to move, all while in the state of California enjoys a $45.7 billion surplus this year. So 1771 seeks to raise taxes on our state's diverse communities as they are entering the housing market and securing homeownership opportunities. So we're doing pretty good here, but again, something to bring up to you guys because I think it is important. It's important that you guys know that we're trying to stay up on this stuff too, because we advocate for property rights. I mean, and that's an important part. We believe in it. We believe in home ownership. So it's beyond just the marketing, the selling of your home, and obviously facilitating that function for you. But it's something that we believe in from a long-term basis, building wealth for you and your family, and having shelter. Home ownership is the way to go. So we have time for questions, I think,
yes,
right?
Before I go quickly into the open Q&A session, I just wanted to do, again, I know James already recapped it, but if you're considering making a move out of state, please call us. Our office line is 626-609-2130. You can message us on Instagram, on Facebook. You can email us. We have a contact@kaleorealestate.com email that, you'll get a general response from that. But the process of selling your house is stressful. There's a lot of moving parts, and you're not an expert probably in real estate because you probably are an expert in something else. And that's really where our role is coming in terms of finding solutions. And the solution might be complicated because there's a lot of moving parts. There's a job, there's, school ending, there's a place you want to buy out of state, maybe it's a new build and there's different timing. But all of it is going to be an individual approach. So as we're talking on this very broad level about different types of solutions, it's because ultimately what you're facing is going to be unique. So if anybody has questions that they want to put in either the Facebook Live or, I just got a question on, is now a good time to buy? On the Facebook live stream, and then any other questions in the Zoom chat.
So